David's marriage to Hannah had always seemed perfect on the surface. They were a quiet couple living in the small suburban town of Brooksville, married for over 15 years. David worked as an accountant, while Hannah, a schoolteacher, kept a steady job that brought her joy. Their lives were normal, predictable, and until a certain point, happy. But beneath the surface, things weren't as they seemed. David had become increasingly unhappy in their marriage. He was struggling financially, his career was stagnant, and he felt trapped. This frustration led to an affair with Linda, a colleague from work. Linda offered him the emotional escape he craved, and soon, David found himself spending more time with her and less with Hannah. Hannah, noticing the distance between them, confronted David. Their arguments grew more frequent as she questioned him about his behavior. As their relationship deteriorated, the arguments became more intense. David, feeling cornered and desperate, saw his escape in Linda, but Hannah was relentless in her pursuit of the truth. The night of November 2nd, 2012, was the breaking point. The tension that had been building for months came to a head. After an argument about David's affair, David lost control. What was meant to be a confrontation about their failing marriage quickly turned into a fight. In a moment of rage, David struck Hannah. The blow sent her crashing to the ground. When he checked her pulse, it was too late. Hannah was dead. David quickly panicked. He staged the scene to look like a botched robbery, making sure the house was in disarray. He buried her body in the woods behind their home and continued his life as though nothing had happened. The police never suspected him. His acting skills were convincing, and the case was quickly closed. The years that followed were filled with unease for David. Though he had moved on and married Linda, he could never shake the guilt of what he had done. Every night, he was haunted by the image of Hannah's lifeless body. She visited him in his dreams, her accusing eyes never leaving him. He tried to push the memories away, but they only became more vivid. His every waking moment was clouded by guilt. His mind was filled with the image of her standing before him, asking him why. In the years that followed, David grew more paranoid. He couldn't escape the guilt, the weight of what he had done. He began to hear things, soft whispers, faint noises. His nightmares grew worse. And then, one night, the unthinkable happened. It was late one evening in August 2022, when David returned home to find his front door slightly ajar. His heart raced. He thought he was just imagining things. But as he stepped inside, the air felt wrong, cold and oppressive. The house was eerily quiet. Then, he saw her. There, standing at the end of the hallway, was Hannah. Her appearance was unsettling, disheveled, her clothes torn, and her expression empty yet accusing. David, voice trembling, shocked. "Hannah? No, this can't be. You're dead." Hannah didn't speak. She simply stared at him, her eyes cold and unblinking. The silence was deafening. David, panicking, his breath catching in his throat. "This isn't real. This isn't happening. This is a nightmare. This can't be happening." But Hannah remained silent, her presence all-consuming. David turned to flee, but his legs wouldn't move. He was paralyzed with fear. In that moment, he realized he wasn't dreaming. This was real. The ghost of his past had returned. Detective Stevens had always suspected there was more to the case than the police had initially concluded. The way David acted after his wife's death, the lack of a clear suspect, and the strange circumstances surrounding the crime, everything about it didn't sit right with him. For years, Stevens had kept a file on the case, revisiting it whenever he had a quiet moment. He always believed there was something more to discover. In 2022, after reading new reports about unexplained disappearances in the area, Stevens reopened the case. Stevens, muttering to himself as he flipped through old files. "I knew it! There's something we missed. Something's wrong here." He began retracing his steps, revisiting the scene of the crime. The more he looked into it, the more discrepancies emerged. The initial report had been too neat, too tidy. He knew that the case had been closed prematurely, But now, new information was surfacing. One key detail emerged: phone records from the night of Hannah's death. Stevens discovered that David had been in contact with Linda, the woman he had been having the affair with during the time of Hannah's murder. He also found a pattern of strange calls that had been made just before Hannah's death. Something wasn't adding up, and Stevens began to suspect that David's involvement wasn't as innocent as it had seemed. Stevens, on the phone with a colleague, focused. "I need you to look into David's recent calls. There's something off about his alibi. I have a feeling we're missing something big." After months of investigation, the case finally broke wide open. On the evening of August 25, 2022, David's guilty conscience could no longer hold him back. The nightmares, the visions of Hannah, the constant feeling of being watched, it all became too much to bear. Overcome with guilt, David called Linda to his side, his voice shaking. "David," barely able to speak, hands trembling. "I've been trying to run from this, but I can't anymore. I killed her. I killed Hannah." Linda, staring at him in disbelief, confused and frightened. "No! No, David! What do you mean? You couldn't have—" David, sobbing, breaking down completely. "I killed her. I didn't mean to, but I did. I didn't know what to do. I buried her in the woods. I thought I could escape it, but she's been haunting me. I see her everywhere. She's been coming back, Linda, asking me why." Linda, horrified and unable to understand what David had done, immediately contacted the authorities. The case had been reopened, and it wasn't long before the police, guided by Stevens' relentless investigation, uncovered the body in the woods behind their home, just as David had confessed. The truth was undeniable. David was arrested, and the truth came to light. He was charged with the murder of his wife, Hannah, and sentenced to life in prison. David's haunting is a chilling reminder of the consequences of guilt and the lengths a person will go to in order to bury the past. Though he tried to escape his crime, the ghosts of his actions followed him, haunting him in the form of the woman he murdered. His confession brought closure to a long unsolved case, but it did nothing to ease the pain he caused. The case of Hannah will forever be remembered as one of the most unsettling stories of a life stolen, and the ghost of a past that refused to stay hidden. At Shadow of Crime Chronicles, we bring stories like this to the forefront, uncovering the mysteries that captivate the world and exploring the shadows that linger in unresolved cases. Join us as we continue to delve into the dark corners of crime, telling the stories that deserve to be heard. Your support helps us keep the pursuit of justice alive. If you've found this case haunting, disturbing, and worth following, subscribe to Shadow of Crime Chronicles for more chilling true crime documentaries. Your support helps us continue the search for truth, no matter how dark the path may be.